Welcome to another episode of Excel, Learning the Basics. My name is Jerry Colbert, and in this week's episode, we're going to be exploring the drop-down menu. Coming up next. So here we are within Excel for Mac. This is the 2011 version of Excel. And in this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about drop-down menus. And what I'm talking about the drop-down menu is right up here at the top, we have several types of drop-down menus here. We have the Excel, we have the File, Edit, View, Insert, Format, Tools, Data, Window, and Help. So, I'm going to be talking about in this episode just these areas of Excel. We're not going to go into too much detail on each one of the sub-menus underneath the menus here. But what we're going to do is talk a little bit about how I might utilize them and how you might utilize them to become more productive utilizing the Excel program. Now, I do have Excel here for Mac. And to be perfectly honest, some of these things might not work exactly the same in Excel for the PC. Now, with that being said, most of what I want to be showing you in these upcoming episodes with Excel will work in the PC environment, and the fundamentals definitely will work in the PC environment. So hopefully with this series, that's what I want to be showing you all is the fundamentals, the how Excel works, and some of the things might be a little bit different in the PC environment because of the way Mac and PC differ. But for the most part, I believe most of this you can translate over to the PC version. So now here we are in the Excel for Mac here. And so if you go up here to Excel and you click on it, you have About Excel. You can upgrade your Office. And I have Excel 2011, as you see here, when you click on that. Now, of course, I could have updated to the most current version of Excel, but I just haven't gotten around to it. And to be perfectly honest, I don't really need anything else. But for those of you who want to upgrade, Office 365 is out, and that's a yearly subscription. And they keep you up to date on the newest version of Excel. When you click on Excel here, you also have preferences. So in this Excel thing, the most used item in all of this is preferences. Of course, quitting Excel is probably the actual most used item in this area, but I digress. Preferences is where I would go if I wanted to choose a different option within Excel as far as preferences go. So if you see here, if I go and I click on the General tab, these are all of the different things I can choose. By default, this is the way the window looks. I haven't changed hardly any of the preferences here. But you can change the sheets in your new workbook. So just so you know, what I've got here opened is a workbook. If you see up here, it says Workbook 1. This whole thing here is a workbook. So I could set the number of sheets down here at the bottom. I could set that to 3 sheets opening up every time I open up a new workbook. So I could just do that, hit number 3 there and save that. And so then the next time I open up a new workbook, 3 sheets down here would open up. And we'll go into sheets in more detail, but that could be useful if that's what you want to do for setting a default. Also, you have the standard font, the body font. It's the standard font that's used here. You can change that as well as the size, the preferred file location if you have any desire to do such, and startup, open all files in blase. And if you can change that as well, there's my username, and then open Excel workbook gallery when application opens. So the workbook gallery is where I can choose whether or not I want to use a template, or if I just want to start a new workbook from scratch, I can go, it automatically opens up the Excel workbook gallery. So if I go backwards here, I also have the view section here of preferences. In the preferences here, I can show formula bar by default, and that's that formula bar right here, or I can show the status bar. I can also have preferred view for new sheets, either normal or page layout. For comments, this is usually the default. For object show, and this is default here. And Windows options, this is the default, for which you can change at any time, anything you want to do. If you don't want any grid lines, you can uncheck that mark. Show formulas, you can go ahead and leave that unchecked. A lot of times I don't really see no need in showing the formulas. Show rows and column headings, and so forth and so forth. These are the things you can choose if you have a preference. Also, you have edit area where you can change the preferences here to suit your individual desire. And also here in autocorrect, you can change this here. You can change the types of ways things react. Like for instance, for copyright, if I put that, it's going to give me this little copyright symbol and such. So these are the things you can change under that section. Charts, here's where you can change some preferences for charts. Calculations, here's where you can change that as well. And then of course you have error checking. These are some preferences you can change in here. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that area. Custom lists, you can create your own custom list here if you so desire. We'll go into that in a later advanced episode. Auto completes, you have this area here that you can change if you want, different preferences. You also have tables, you can change the tables types of preferences. Filters, you can also change that. There's not very many preferences to change basically on filters. And then of course the save icon, you can save auto recovery information at this number of minutes, 10 minutes. You have compatibility here, and so this shows you the compatibility and gives you kinds of different color versions based upon your version of Excel. And let's see here, under security you have this type of stuff here, and this is the default screen layout here. Feedback, yeah, pretty much good little feedback area. And of course the ribbon, and here's all the different things you can change there. So these are basically the preferences within Excel that you can change for your own needs. Now, let's move on here. I want this to be somewhat of a short episode. I'm just giving you a brief overview and description of these items. Later on when we utilize Excel, you'll see me utilize more of these options as the weeks and months progress with using Excel here. So under File, you have New Workbook, New from Template, and of course you can open any of the recent ones and such. Close the workbook you're working on. You can save it. Save as a way of layout. You can also import into Excel. That's more of an advanced feature which we'll show you later. You can also share to your OneDrive or SharePoint. You can also reduce the file size by clicking here. It's somewhat useful, especially if you have a, let's say you have a limit on the amount of file size that you can send through your work email or what have you. This could be useful to reduce your file size of this Excel workbook that you create. Web page view here, restrict permissions, passwords you can set up, page setup, print area, print, and of course properties. That basically is an area where you can title your thing, your workbook here, put your subject matter, who the author is, and so forth and so forth. You can check statistics, contents, and custom. I don't very rarely use this, but some people like to say, hey, this workbook was worked by me, and I want to be given credit for it. Under the Edit menu, we have all your basic editing features that you find in most Mac programs. And the View, same here. Most of this is you'll find in most Mac programs. Insert, here's where you can do a lot of stuff you can do by right-clicking in here, but you can also have this area here where you can insert a cell, row, column, and so forth into your workbook. The format also will format any of these cells within the workbook or the rows or columns or sheets. You also have conditional formatting, which is basically an if-then that series of questions that if true, it will do a certain thing for you. That's the conditioning format. And then, of course, you have styles as well, and we'll go into that in a later episode. You also have tools here, which is basically spelling, thesaurus, dictionary, language, autocorrect, and error checking. You can share a workbook, track changes, protection, protect the sheets, workbooks, and such. Flag for follow-up. You can do goal seeking, scenarios, and auditing if you so desires. And then, of course, macros, which I do not like. I despise macros, but we will talk about it in later episodes. Add-ins, customized keyboards. Then, of course, you also have the data area here, which you can sort your data in your cells, filter it, advanced filtering. You can create forms, subtotals, validation, and, of course, you have the data tables and so forth down here. Window is just a normal area that you would see in most Mac programs. And then, of course, this menu, which pretty much is a useless thing there, but there it is anyways. And then, of course, you have the help area where you can search for any kind of help if you need something or need to know something within Excel. So that is basically the Excel drop-down menus that I wanted to kind of go over with you. I didn't want to go into too much detail on it. I want to keep this video short, but this is basically the Excel drop-down menus. And as the weeks progress and as I go into more detail on how you create cells, we'll be utilizing some of these areas up here. Mostly, we'll probably be using the format in the tools section and maybe even the data section. Although, to be honest with you, some of this is already included down in here. When you click on data, a lot of this stuff here is already up here. So, with that being said, if you like this video, please click on the like button down below. And if you want to see more of these types of videos, please subscribe to my channel. And so, without further ado, I want to wish you all a wonderful day, and let's become more productive. Thank you.